this painting, I want to talk about the blind people. Before I paint this painting, I have a game with my partner. That game is when I close my eye and I walk around, I feel like I'm blind. And then when I walk, I'm so scared that I can crush on some things and walk on the rock. I get hurt.
Hey, man, that was a great story about your student.
Yeah, Salone is amazing. She was with us 10 years. She's been with us more than 10 years, and now she's one of our teachers. And we got a lot of kids like that who've just been with us a long time, and they got so much talent. So
Yeah, she sounds.
I'm a blessed guy. I'm a blessed to be involved with these future geniuses.
Bill, it's good to see you again.
Mark, how are you? It's been months.
It's been great, man. Where you been? You
Great,
just getting
because I haven't been around to bug you.
No, I missed talking to you. I missed talking to you. You know, it's been a little time. You've been over in Sam Reap and with your global travels. One of the things I was thinking about, you know a lot about France, don't you?
Parlez-vous. I do. I have a few experiences in the phenomenal country, France.
Well, what do you say we talk a little bit about your experiences in France? I know you've been married to a woman that's supposedly for 29 years, and she's French. And I just think it'd be, that's a lot of you exude.
She was French. She became American.
Well, she loved it so much she became American, right?
Yes,
But
I know. France is one of the countries I've spent a lot of time in. We used to go there a lot. And then we also, the company had a factory in the south of France near Toulouse.
Toulouse-Lautrec. Hey, then wasn't there a gentleman with a woman's name, Renee, right? Is that a woman's name or is that just a French name? I don't know.
It's just a French name.
Absolutely.
A lot of French names go both ways, let's just say.
So they're kind of, what are they, like Leslie? Leslie's, what do they call that?
Leslie can be a man or a woman.
Pat, Leslie, those kind of names. Right, absolutely. So Renee is one of those women.
Maria can be a man or a woman.
Well, I don't know any man Marias, but I know about Marion.
Well, in France, there's some.
Yes.
Now,
you had a family.
What do you want to know about France? What do you want to hear about the food? Man. You want to hear about the cities? They have amazing culture. They're world famous for their wine. What kind of angle you want to go on this one, Mark?
Well, I'd like to know a little bit about everything, but I'd like to start it out and why don't you give me your first impressions of France? They're all, like you had.
The first time I went to France. Good question, because I was only like 23, 24, and it was before Paris had been cleaned up, and it was kind of a dirty city. It was a bit run down. We're talking when I was 24, it was 1958.
Sound like a
mid 80s. And I think they cleaned up. The word is they went out and sandblasted all these famous buildings that were just covered with soot, and they turned white and beautiful. And now you go to Paris and you see all that. But it was before they had done that. And it seemed a wee bit on the seedy side, fun. I went with my dad, and we were on our way to Switzerland, where we were gonna start our second factory in the world, Puzo, Switzerland, near Neuchâtel. And my father and I hung out together for 3 months, buying the first hammer, buying the first saw, buying the first chair in this little factory, Puzo, which was in Puzo, which is right next to Neuchâtel, which Lake Neuchâtel is quite famous. That's also near Geneva. And this is all the center of the watchmaking industry for Switzerland.
I got you.
I won't dig into that, but Positronic, or the company, the unnamed company that the family worked with, used a lot of the same machines that were used in the watch industry.
So I got you.
One of those little French. I found Paris a little bit dirty, a little bit seedy. And I was not impressed. I thought it was just kind of an old rundown town. That was my first trip into Paris.
What year was that? 80s?
I think it was 83, 84.
84. Sounds a lot like Times Square back in the day, so
Well,
seedy.
New York in the 80s was run down too. I lived in New York for a while in like 86, 87. And
Right.
it was like being in a vampire movie walking the streets at night, steam coming up from below the streets, and
Oh, sure.
everybody was in a jacket, kind of hunched over, on the corners, and everybody wore a trench coat and
Smoking.
totally. So yeah, that was my first time to France, and then we ended up moving our factory in I think around 1990 or something to Auch, France, which
Oh,
was in the south of France, southwest France, which is a unique part of France, and in essence, all of France has these different regions which are somewhat unique, and
well,
so
why
that's
France? I mean, why France? Why not France? Why not Germany? Why not Portugal?
Well,
what was?
we hired our second factory manager in France, or in Switzerland, was a Frenchman, and a lot of the benefits that we thought we were going to get from being in Switzerland didn't actually happen. And when we moved there, it was before the euro, I believe, and then when the euro came on board, it made a lot of sense to be in one of the countries that used the euro, and the European community became more of a one melded unit and unified, and the in Switzerland stayed outside of that. I think the
Really?
Swiss, if I'm correct, still use the Swiss franc.
Swiss franc, yeah,
Yeah.
Dutch. Hey, they when I think of France, I think of their wine, I think of their food, I think of their architecture, but I also think of their somewhat strained relationship. So, well, I don't know. I mean, when you ask an American about France or a French person, I don't think there's a warm embrace. You know what I mean, from an average person. And I was wondering, do you like France? You like the French? Maybe you
You
can tell me a
know,
little.
I
Oh,
I think the first few times I might have went to France, I didn't really understand the French, and not many people in France spoke English back then. There was one girl who was a foreign exchange student with my parents for a while, who I knew a little bit in Paris, but it wasn't until several trips, and I think some of the trips that I took with my ex-wife, I became introduced to and embraced by the warmth of the French culture. The France, once you get to know it, and once you get to know the French people, are a lot of fun, extremely warm. I've had some of the best times in my life in France now, and some of the um, greatest friends of my life have been from France. So I know the positive side of France now. I think what it was interesting. I was telling somebody the story yesterday that my ex would say that, Bill, you see the way that this French guy is talking to the American, and he's acting like he's completely indifferent. He's acting blasé. It's a French word. You know what the word? Oh, blasé. Wow. That's boring. Nobody's more interesting than me. Everything is blasé. Let's talk about me some more. But she would point out that, see, when he's talking to another French person, he's talking the same way. They treat everybody the same way. They're blasé to everybody. It's just
really.
a French style of being. And so once you know that, it's just kind of how their culture is developed. And one of the stories I might be able to tell later, if we talk about France for long, is that scattered around the world, there are a lot of French expats, because there are a lot of French people who detest and hate French people. And so they go out of France and they live somewhere around the world, and they create their own little French empire. And my ex would say, there's nobody more French than the French people who say they hate the French. I
A little
love
strict.
I love that line.
Well,
Now let me tell you, she first told me that on a trip we were in Cambodia. Let me try to roll this one off here pretty quick. We're in Cambodia. It's my birthday. A buddy of mine who is quite well heeled, he calls up the #1 hotel in Siem Reap, Cambodia, and he says, hey, bud, my good friend Mick Jagger, who says he stayed here, he said, I need to call you when I need to know a good restaurant in Siem Reap. And he says, oh, wow, you really know Mick? Yeah, Mick's been here. Great guy. Well, let me tell you, you need to go to the La Parisienne Cafe. And so go there, and it's by appointment only that they open. So we go to this place, and it's right, you can see Angkor Wat right there from his front porch. And he opened up his restaurant, this old French guy, maybe 75, and they had 2 tables in the whole restaurant. We were like 6. We're sitting down and we eat, and he's serving river fish, and the food was all great, and the wine was amazing. And he sat there and he kind of bored us all night because he tried to dominate the conversation all the time, which is kind of a French thing. I don't really have time to hear what you have to say because I've got a lot more interesting things to talk about than you possibly could. So anyhow, this guy, he starts to say, I had to come to Cambodia. I had to get out of France, because I just hate the French. I got to get out of. So we moved to somewhere like Martinique. And then he said, Martinique was wonderful at first, but then it became so French. So many French people moved to Martinique. I had to get out of there. So I came here to Cambodia, which was another colony. And this is wonderful here because, there's very few French here. There's actually a lot of French there, but by comparison, there was very few French. And he said he hated the French, and my wife would lean over and says, that's because he's more French than the French. The people who hate the French the most are certain French people.
Wow.
But they are the most French of all. We're going to talk about one of our students at this time. We're trying to convey to the people watching what it's like to be at the Colors of Cambodia in Cambodia, and what the vibe is, and what the kids are learning, and what the kids look like, and what they're working on. So we're going to show a film clip here of Salone. Salone, one of our great artists, been with us for over 10 years, and now one of our teachers as well. Salone.
She's good, huh?
Oh, she's great. Did I send you some of the stuff, some of the brochures we've done and all that? I sent you some stuff from our last show, the newspaper article. And
yeah, that's what it was. It was like you could see some artwork in the background, but it wasn't anything specific.
Okay, well, she sold one of the big pieces that night, and she had several, like 4 pieces of it. Show.
You thought about approaching some like colleges or art programs that you could go to, like UCLA or some of these places that, even like MSU. I know some people at MSU, right, that have some art. Why wouldn't they be interested in funding, the academia? I was thinking, why does it have to be private? Why couldn't it be funded by some of these colleges? Or, and this whole deal where everybody's trying to be, I don't want to say woke or whatever. Bill, when I think of France, I think of good food, art, intellect. Why don't you tell me about the food? Because as you can see, I'm not missing many meals here. And
you'll lose a lot of weight if you move to France, because the portions, they're famously small. The portions are famously small.
Well, that's
and
true.
You walk everywhere. In America, you jump in your car. In France, you're going to walk more often.
I think of French. I think of the bread. Obviously, the bread. The what?
Le pain.
The bread.
Pain.
Croissant. Le croissant.
So incroyable pain. Bread is the baguettes, the long baguettes. That is a symbol of France. Wine, red wine, baguettes. And the other one of the greatest creations in all of France, from France, is la croissant.
The French fry.
Delicate, kind of a snail-shaped sort of bread made with very.
It's light and flaky and very buttery.
It's flaky. So I'm when I'm in Cambodia, I eat probably more French food than anything else, because it is a French colony, and there's a lot of guys who've gone there and taken on Khmer wives and started French restaurants, and some of them are magnifique.
Well, like I say, the food to me is interesting and exotic. When I think of French food, like you say, pig's cheek, escargot, frog legs,
You know what
quail.
escargot is?
Yeah, it's I usually throw salt on the little critters out in my garden is what I usually throw them on there. Snails, right? I don't care for snails.
I thought it was a courier company.
It could be. They could
Escar-
pump into police.
Escargot,
Yeah, there you
Swiss
go.
cargo. Yeah, well, I'm not, I mean, I like the La Guananui, which is basically frog legs. Americans do have that, and we have a lot of French influence, I think, in Southern cuisine. But probably the most famous food that you'll see anywhere in the world, you go to a French restaurant, it will be le canard, which
I thought I was
is
gonna say, what about
duck.
ratatouille? What about
Duck.
ratatouille? No ratatouille.
Ratatouille is a wonderful kind of a casserole, stew, what have you, and it's, I think, pretty much like 12 different vegetables chopped up with a little bit of a spicy covering sauce. Ratatouille. My ex made a great ratatouille. They made a movie about ratatouille.
Yeah, anyone
of the
can do.
rat.
There we go. I'm kind of like that rat right there. But no, tell me about the food. Like, so when I think of if I was going to go to Europe, and I haven't been, and I would love to go. I went on a vacation one time to New Orleans, right? And I went on an eating vacation because it sounds interesting, but I love the flavors and stuff. So if I was going to go to Europe, I would love to go to either Italy or France, not so much England, but places where in their culture dining is celebrated. I think Spain's very similar to that, and
Yeah.
so
I think the two most famous would be Italian and French.
yeah, so I think part of
Portuguese.
Portuguese, absolutely. I think that's a big part of their culture, right? And dining and eating, food is a big deal, right?
Yeah, what they call the la joie de vivre, the French life, to enjoy life, to not many cultures in Europe that I've seen work Friday afternoon. They go to the bar restaurant at lunch on Friday and just miraculously never show up back at work.
What time is dinner in France? Supper, what do you call it in France?
I'm going to say it's probably more like 8 o'clock. And I mean,
that's-
in Spain, it might be 9 or 10. And I mean, and I don't really quite get that, but yet sometimes you'll go home from work and nap, and then you'll get up at 8:30, and then you'll go and eat at 9, and then you go dancing at 11:30, and then you get home at 2. And I mean, I've seen that was Brazilian life, which is, I think, very similar to can be Spanish life. But I've had so many wonderful meals, and I continue to have wonderful French meals, like I said, in Siem Reap, Cambodia.
If you were going to,
They really take their time preparing things in a creative way. They're very creative, and a French restaurant and like some of these Michelin star restaurants, they're continuing to try and explore and invent, new combinations of food. It's not just, a fish. Poisson de manure, I think, is French people in the audience will cringe, but it's butter on a like a baked fish. But the delicate spices they put on there, and they'll put it on rice, or they might put it on a special like mashed zucchini or something. I'm not an expert in food, but that is what makes French cuisine fantastic. Of course, you can go to some of the more traditional French restaurants where it's going to be the older style, a lot of duck. Steak tartare is quite famous, which is basically minced raw beef.
There for that.
They're phenomenal with seafood. They're just very creative. And there's a saying that there's 3 secrets. I don't know if you've heard this, the 3 secrets to French cooking. Have you heard of that one?
I have never heard of it. So if you know them, then
Number 1 is butter, number 2 is butter, and number 3 is butter. Those are the 3 secrets to making a good French dish.
I don't think that's a secret.
Well, it was to me.
Well,
it's so fresh. And duck. My favorite food is duck. My favorite way of making duck is with curry. But duck it's a very rich fowl. So, and that's very French.
It's An
Oh,
oily
here's another one is a niçoise salad. You go all over the world and you can find a niçoise salad is almost a standard in a hotel menu. And
What is it?
in America, you're not going to, you're gonna find Caesar salad, but niçoise salad, and then the signature is the diced up egg, the boiled egg.
Boiled. Sounds
Foie
like
gras. Mark, foie gras. You know foie gras?
foie gras, pâté de foie gras.
Pâté.
Well, that would be from the duck too.
Campagne.
That's
Foie gras is basically they force feed male ducks and geese, and the liver gets overloaded and creates this pâté, which is basically a liver. Foie gras is a liver.
that sounds like
Near our factory in France is where the headquarters for foie gras was.
they got some big people over here in Springfield that I think are force fed. You can probably get some foie gras out of these people too. I don't think PETA. Is there a big PETA contention over in France? So stumping for the
What is it? What is that? That chain corral, the Golden Corral.
yeah. It's full of foie gras. Trust me, man. I mean, it's a muy foie gras is what I'm saying.
Foie gras. Okay, that's a little bit about French food. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan.
Well, let me ask you a question though, because two questions now. If you were going to order a meal in France, maybe you can tell me what you would order. And on that note, when you're talking about duck, have you enjoyed Peking duck, which is supposed to be fantastic if you really get true Asian Peking duck?
I have had Peking duck at famous Peking duck restaurants in Peking, which is actually Beijing. I have. And you know what? The main thing I'm going to say is that the delicacy part of Peking duck is they kind of, if I remember correctly, it's the cooked skin of the duck, very crispy, and then the bone marrow soup where they boil and somehow create a soup out of the duck bone. And of course they'll have the duck sliced, but it's not considered the best part, at least by what I was told.
Well, I'm going to tie one thing into this French. When you talk about French food, I'm going to tie it into what we're talking about, because I think it's when you talk about food, it's not just the dining experience, it's the visual experience too, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's an art. It's artwork to them, I think. It's not only you are a chef that prepares delicious food, but it also stimulates your visual senses too. So I think
the presentation is important. Yeah.
The art of the dining experience, I think, is very important. And like I say, we're trying to talk about art and the children. And so, I mean, painting is one thing, but I think there are other forms of art. Like we say, obviously music, but dining, I think, is a very expression of art too, personally. That's what I think.
I totally agree with you. And good point. I mean, I think the French really are the most famous for, and probably the originators of the presentation of the food, where let's say you're going to have a dessert, you're and there'll be a pastry. The French are phenomenal with their pastries, French bakeries. Here in Santa Fe, there's some phenomenal French bakeries, and you go out and you buy it. It's like a little miniature raspberry pie. But then, as they're serving it as a dessert, they'll have little drops of chocolate circling around, and then little flakes of coconut.
Well, if food is that much and everybody's eating all the time, how come they're not overweight?
Because the portions are small.
Really?
I think that's the biggest thing. The portions are small and the people are more active. They're walking around. I mean, most of these cities in France, the old downtown area where a lot of the people are, there's hardly room for cars in these very narrow streets.
Really? So it's just
if they have to park the car, they might have to walk 10, 12 blocks and then they'll walk to get their lunch or buy some canard for dinner. And it's much more of an outdoor walking culture and society.
Is everybody like that? I mean, and the reason I say that is to say, I like to eat as much as I like to do anything else, but I couldn't eat duck every day, I mean,
no, you won't eat duck every day.
What I'm saying is,
you'll have duck one day, and then it'll be pig's cheek the next day, and then it's
don't they have like
frog's leg.
They
boiled
have
in
fast
butter.
French. What would be a fast French food? Like if you were just, you got something, you don't want, I don't know, something, you just want something to eat,
No, okay, so what you're gonna have are these, you'll take a baguette. This is, in my assessment, about the most common quick lunch in France. You'll have a baguette, maybe a foot long. It'll be chopped in the middle. It's sliced in the center, so it's like a sandwich. And there will be cheese. There might be, the French cheese is fantastic. So let's say there's going to be a brie, then there's going to be a layer of tomatoes, and then some of these like parma, thinly sliced, dried meats, all the different sausages, saucisson, layered, and that's a typical sandwich. And there might one of them might be a tuna salad. One of them might be, I know what is it? Can't think of the name. It's in Italian, but anyhow, it's the special buffalo cheese.
mozzarella,
Mozzarella. No, it's buffalo.
Gouda.
Terms for it. Yeah. So a sandwich like that would be your fast food lunch in a typical, right where near our French factory. Literally walking distance, you can go get a sandwich like that at several places.
The coffee different there too,
Generally, you're going to get it's big. They're big in the espresso. A lot of people will still drink the little tiny shot glass kind of thing with a holder, and espresso.
Really?
Cappuccino is going to be more out of Italy, and lattes. Lattes really not a French invention as far as I know. But
what about the charcuterie board? Who invented the charcuterie? Is that a French thing? Where they got the cheese?
No, but those French sausages, blood sausages, Parma type ham. Parma, I think, is out of Italy, but it's phenomenal. It's like when you go to the store and you're going to get meat for a sandwich. It's similar, but it's generally more smaller shape, like large silver dollar type of sizes. And then
I'm trying to think of that. What's that real salty ham? The real salty.
Don't know.
Yeah, that'll come to me here. It'll come. You know what I'm talking about here. Yeah, no, that's interesting.
I'm not a big pork guy and hams. I don't eat a lot of sandwiches. Actually, I'm going to have to. For me, in a French restaurant like that, and I eat a lot of quiche.
That's eggs, right?
Well, it's kind of a pie shaped type thing. They come in different sizes, but a vegetable or a spinach quiche,
right?
But spinach and ham quiche. There's some phenomenal French bakeries in Saint-Marie too.
Really? That's interesting.
Fantastic.
Hello, welcome to Colors of Cambodia. Bye.
That's it for now. We hope you enjoyed listening to Earth to Bill. Thank you for tuning in. Your support means the world to us and helps us to continue bringing you fun, informational content for your enjoyment. Now let me tell you about our charity, A World of Difference. This fantastic charity is making a real difference in the lives of children around the world by providing them art education. We believe in the power of art to change lives. If you're interested in supporting this charity, please visit our website, awadcharity.org, and consider making a donation, please. Thanks again for checking out our show. Bye.